Welcome to What Would a Day? I'm Sophia, piloting to the Universe Chinese. Let's continue unpacking supposedly equestrian era character. Today's character is Ji, Ji, boundary. Um, it's a relatively simple. If you look at even 2000 years ago's dictionary, the only difference compared with the contemporary two versions, simplified and traditional, is this farm field, tian, was originally on the left side, and then over time, people shifted upward. But they are still in the same frame. So I guess the evolution of a character, how it was placed, can evolve over time, and whether it's on the left side and on the top of it, probably sometimes it doesn't make too much of a meaning difference, but sometimes location matters. So in this case, probably it doesn't matter that much to change the meaning. Left side is a farm field. Simply, this rectangle shape is piece of land, and you quadrant it to make it into a smaller household lots. And then the right side is in the middle is the person symbol. Specifically, Chinese is leftward facing. So left facing is forward facing for Chinese. It's the opposite of a contemporary English that we use the coordinate system to have the arrow pointing toward the right side. When you go further to the right, the number gets bigger, right? Chinese is the reverse. The forward facing is the left side. So here is the front of the body. This is probably the head, super simplified. And then this is the back. And then we have three vertical lines with the left and right side kind of a mirror image. It's not a straight line. It's a little bit of curvature there. That, according to scholars, is a person standing with armors in the front and the back. So that's the view. It's almost like a protection layer of the body. And because it's a 2D frame, you cannot really model it with like a 360 degree of protection. But if you see in this 2D frame that this person has on the front and the back, and you can mentally picture it in that it's all around protected. So this, the right side itself, already pronounced as jie. The pronunciation carried over to the compository meaning, that means boundary. But jie by itself start from this armor, and eventually the jie was would take the meaning of contact or introduction. That makes sense as well, because if it's armor, it's going to be in contact with your body. So there is this interfacing thing happening here. So we have this person in the middle, elongated all the way to the bottom, and then we have the front and the back, kind of protection layer. And protection layer, that we can view it in today's lingo as set the boundary, your personal space boundary as well. Even if it in the beginning, the function for that is to protect you from your enemy, right, as an armory. But eventually, it can take a social meaning of setting up a boundary. So a person's boundary now apply to the categorical thing here about farm field. Then this is about the land boundary. So 界 eventually means spatial boundary, especially between different regimes. Okay, we have 界限、眼界、租界、界限, boundary and limit. So this is again boundary itself already. We already know what a boundary is, right? And in English, we have limit and boundary, two concepts, and they can mean different things in everyday language or in mathematical terms. But in Chinese, when we say 界限, in our mind, it's one and the same thing. We don't separate 界 and 线 intentionally. Because right now I'm doing language, I'm unpacking, I have to do 界 and 线 to differentiate them. But they actually make the compository meaning simply to be the boundary, 界限. And here, 界限 can mean like legal boundary, social boundary, geographical boundary, geopolitical boundary, interpersonal boundary. So all that can use 界限. And here we have boundary and limit, both to double down on this boundary meaning. Okay, 眼界. I really appreciate the Chinese expression of 眼界 because since I was little, I often hear this expression 眼界, and especially when we want to say 开眼界, open your eye boundary. So basically, we're using eye, the vision function, to represent a person's awareness or understanding or experience or vision or a person's horizon, so to speak, of how far that person can see. For me, I lived in both China and the US, so I have at least like this two sides so that I can compare. For I understand on each side in China or US, not everybody is exposed to different cultures. So for them to step outside their, born into default mode of thinking, of language, of a behavior, all the social um, values embedded from early on. That's really difficult. So for me, I would visualize this 眼界, even if it's about eye boundary, is about your experience that especially you need to cross your original box that you existed, that you want to break from that box and see from outside and then another angle, just like I'm right now doing this explaining, unpacking Chinese in English. So that allow me to observe almost like an outsider's perspective to my born language. And that shows that you can at least have two language to back up on each other, to compare something out of it. So two, if you have both, can give you more than just two. So 1+1 is more than two situation for me that I can transition between the two. So 眼界 in Chinese means how well traveled, how well read, how well educated, or how much experience you have, especially across your social ladder or geographic location, like across the boundaries, and how far you can see, how open-minded you are to take in new values, to at least understand, appreciate different values. So that's 眼界. 租界 is a historical term. It's when in the earliest 20th century actually started from late 19th century, from the ocean age, that the industrialized Western Europe, they start to roam around the world to take up places, right? They're fully controlled India at a certain point. But China, because it's so diverse, such a big area, and probably resistance and like cultural difference, distance is way bigger. So the solution back then is to rent within China, this country of places almost like they are going to follow international, like whoever is the country who occupy or rent this place to do business, to do international trade back then, to follow their own governing rules. So it's almost like a tiny country within a country, except that this is not permanent. It's a rental setup. So we call that 租界. And oftentimes during that time, the Chinese regime, because it was a civil war situation, so it's hard to say who is in charge during that period. And whoever tried to escape the capture from whoever tried to get to them may escape into 租界, to this rent boundary within this a foreign regime governed piece of land, then because the Chinese law enforcement cannot get in there to carry out the Chinese law at the time. So here is a boundary. There you go. 界. Thank you for your time. See you another day.